What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Tightlines podcast, hosted by your favorite podcast host of all time, and that'd be me, Tyler Plackey. Happy spooky season, everybody! Halloween was last week, so I figured we would get our spook on this episode of the podcast. So this week we'll be talking about, you guessed it, spinnerbaits. I'm just kidding. We're talking about spooks this week, guys. We're going to talk about my favorite top water bait of all time, the top water spook. We'll talk types, we'll talk brands, colors, sizes, gear to throw it on, techniques, how to throw it, so much more. And then we also end this episode with opening, finally, the tackle box again and answering your fishing questions. So all this coming at you right here on the Tightlines podcast. So before we get into it, we need to talk about what a spook is, okay? So a spook kind of just looks like a plug, okay? It's a long cylindrical topwater lure, usually either with 2 or 3 treble hooks underneath it, depending on the size. They're typically made of either hard plastic or balsa wood, just like a crankbait or a jerkbait or anything else. And they're designed to float on top of the water. They don't sink at all, they stay up top. And you fish them by doing what's called walking the dog. Similar to if you guys have ever fished a frog, it's very similar. It's the same idea. It's called walking the dog, and we'll get into that in a bit. But these are to be fished kind of in more clean water. You don't want there to be a lot of debris because you have big treble hooks underneath it. And these treble hooks will hook into, if you're fishing really shallow, into grass. It'll hook into leaves. It'll hook into anything that it might get stuck into, because that's the point of treble hooks, is to just catch everything. So this is a lure that you can't really fit. I wouldn't fish, obviously, in lily pads. You're kind of fishing this in open water. Spooks come in a variety of sizes and colors. Some of them even have little popping cups on the mouth of them. So let's talk about these different sizes and types. So what have I found so far is that the bigger spooks are easier to walk. I have had a lot more trouble walking the smaller spooks than the big ones. I prefer big ones. You can also bomb cast them, which is fun. And the name of the game with spooks, just like most other topwater, is just covering water and just kind of finding ways to keep them in the strike zone. And that's what's nice about a spook, is because they don't sink like a buzzbait would. You can kill them, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So you kind of sit there, you want to twitch the bait, obviously, and we'll talk about how to do all this. But the difference between these is there's the popping version and the non-popping. The popping version has a little cup in the mouth where it kind of spits water out forward like a popper when you're walking it, versus the ones that obviously they don't spit, they just kind of walk back and forth and splash. There's also there's rattling versus silent top water spooks. And then there's 2 types of rattling. There's like the multi-BB ones and like the big one knockers. And then obviously you have your silent. I prefer a one knock just because it adds that little extra oomph behind each twitch. I'm not a fan of the silent ones. They're okay, but really not a fan of like the multi-rattle ones. I don't like those. I think it's too much going on. If you want noise, go one knock. If you're not going to go noise, obviously you're going silent. And again, typically the bigger spooks have 3 trebles on them. The smaller ones will have 2. So moving on to colors, there's really only 3 colors that I'm going to use in a spook. I'm going to use bone, I'm going to use black, and then I'm going to use some sort of translucent color with a stripe on top. And that is very specific to one brand that I fish, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But that is it. I think, personally, everything else is designed to catch us and not fish. I think all these, chartreuse with orange fires, tiger stripes on them and speckled tops. I mean, guys, come on. No fish is seeing that if it's a topwater spook. It's not going under the water. All you need is the belly. So I like bone, I like black, and then I like a translucent. And I will explain that one in a bit. But so with the bone is good for pretty just clear water kind of days where, the fish can see the spook very well. They have a good chance to look at it. One of those where you might be able to kill it, especially in clear water where you twitch it along and you let it sit for a bit. So bone's a really good option as always. It gives a nice normal color. Kind of looks like the belly of a fish or the belly of a frog or anything else that might be on top of the water that a fish might eat. The black is probably my favorite besides the translucent. The black is really good in every situation because what it is it has huge contrast. Even at night when you think about it, it's got this huge amount of contrast in the water. But especially during sunny days where instead of looking up and seeing color, they look up and just see like this shadow. And when these fish are looking up and seeing this shadow, they're like, holy crap, there's something there, and that's when they go up and smack it. So black is really good at pretty much any time. You can always throw black. But then we need to talk about the translucent, and specifically it's a translucent prism bait that I like, and we'll talk about the brand again later, but it's from Yozuri. If you guys haven't heard of them, look them up. I love their stuff. But they do these translucent walking baits that have these little stripes on the top, and they're prismed on the inside, so they're really, really, really good on these sunny days, where maybe there's a little bit of wind, a little bit of waves, a little bit of ripples in the top. And every time you pop that, it just sends this huge, almost like disco ball light show underneath the water. And every fish in the world is looking at it. Guys, I've caught amazing fish on this. So obviously the translucent prism is great. So moving on, so we've talked about spooks. So we've talked about what they are, the different types, the different colors. We've talked about sizes. So what do we throw spooks on? And again, this is a quick episode. I don't want to sit here and ramble on about spooks for an hour. I want to hit you guys real quick with, hey, what's a spook? How do we fish a spook? And move on. So what do I throw it on? So there's a huge debate out there on what you should throw it on, what kind of line, what kind of gear, the weight of the gear, and everyone has their own opinion, and that's fine. But I keep it very simple. You guys have heard me talk about the only 3 combos you need to go fishing. And I'm going to stand on that by saying I'm going to throw this on my topwater combo. I'm not going to throw this on any sort of mono or fluoro. I'm not going to throw this on a moderate rod, nothing crazy. I'm throwing this on my broomstick rod. It's a Dobyns MK735C. It's a 7'3" mag heavy extra fast rod with a Shimano SLX XT 8.2-to-1 reel and 65-pound braid, guys. This thing is going to work great. Like I said, some people like more moderate rod to help pin the fish with that bend. Some like a mono, some like monofilament for the line, so you get a little bit of stretch in the line and you're not ripping the hooks out. For me, all you gotta do is make sure you're not just absolutely horsing this fish the whole time. You have to know how to play a fish. If they're going under, let them go under. Turn your drag down a little bit if you have to, but just don't rip the lure out of the fish's mouth. I don't ever run a leader. I tie braid directly to the lure with an improved trilene knot and just hammer fish, guys. So how do you fish a spook? So the technique, as we talked about earlier, is called walking the dog. And what that basically means is you're matching your spook, and all it's doing is going back and forth almost 180 degrees. So the head's looking to the left, then it's looking to the right, then to the left, and then to the right. And you do this by twitching your rod. So to get this dart, so the length of your twitch is going to depend on the amount of slack in your line. So how you do it, you're going to bottom cast it out, you're going to reel up almost all of your slack. Not all of it, but all. And you're going to palm your reel, and you're going to sit there and you're going to twitch and pull the slack out of the line and just get a little bit of that. And just all you want to do is get to the point where the line is taut. What that's going to do is that's going to twitch the lure to the left. And then what you're going to do is as it does that, it pulls it forward and twitches it to the left. It's going to put slack in line, reel out a little bit of that slack, not all of it, just a little bit again, and twitch it again. It's going to go to the right. And you're going to do this back and forth, and you're going to start off very slowly because you're going to learn how to do this. And as you get your cadence down, it's twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch. You know what I'm saying? It's not full turns of your reel. For me, it's somewhere between a quarter turn and a third of a turn. It's typically 7 twitches per every 2 times I go around. So that's kind of like the cadence. And as you get used to it, you want to work it steady. And then you're going to learn how to speed it up. And then you're going to learn how to, at that point, go from fast to slow and have alterations in your cadence. And then from there, what you can do is when you find, if you've got a spot where there's a fish sitting, you twitch and you're going to work this lure all the way toward the top of this fish and then kill it. And just let it sit there. And guys, you have no idea how many fish you're going to catch on that kill. It is great. But changing your cadence, small breaks, just finding different ways to entice the fish. And you're not always going to catch the fish on the first time you throw it for them. Sometimes it might take 40 casts. So that's going to be how you fish your spook. And it's just like walking the dog. If you guys don't know how to walk the dog, there's a bajillion videos out there. If my explanation wasn't perfect, and I know it probably wasn't, but there's a bajillion videos out there. Go find them on YouTube. I'll probably put one together at some point as well for everybody on how to walk the dog. So finally, we're going to talk brands. And there's 3 brands that I really fish of a spook. It's going to be obviously Heddon, which is the OG brand. They've got their Devil's Horse, or maybe Smithwick does the Devil's Horse. But it's like a spy bait, so you can get spy baits, which are very similar to spooks. But Heddon's got their Super Spook and their Super Spook Junior. Bass Mafia, I love. It's called their Dead Man Walking. I actually really like that. It comes with pretty nice BKK hooks. But then obviously there's Yozuri, and I love Yozuri. Yozuri, almost all of them, at least ones I have found, are three trebles, which are like a bigger bait. They have normal spooks, and they also have pencil, what they call a pencil popper, where it's a spook that's also got a little cup in the mouth, and it pops along the way, and those catch fish just as well. But guys, these things just walk really well. They're super easy to walk. They're not horribly expensive. They're like $11 a lure, but when you think about it, it's a top water lure. You shouldn't lose it. If you lose it, it's your fault because you either tied a bad knot or you had a really crappy cast. So you're not getting hung up, in netting on the bottom. Top water is where you can kind of spend some money. But go out, please, and check out the Yozuri spooks because, guys, they have some excellent, excellent translucent colors. Again, that prism is really nice. You guys, you have to try them out to understand them. They have a lime green stripe on top. They have like a brown stripe and a blue stripe. I like all three of those. They also have bone colors. They have black colors, and then they have, like I said, obviously they're popping ones if you like to run popping. I'm not a huge fan. I still fish them if I need a little extra, but I like the normal spook. So that is going to be everything spooks for you guys. Again, super quick, simple breakdown for you. Not going to spend a ton of time on this today. We don't want to bore you guys with every little detail on split ring size and how to pick each color based on the barometric pressure. And you gotta go out and fish, and you gotta learn when fish are biting. You gotta learn what they're doing. It's about learning tendencies, and I think we've talked about that before. So go ahead and check out that episode on how to learn fishing tendencies. But we're going to finally open up the tackle box again. And this comes in from JJ Music Man on Spotify. And he asked me, what is my favorite combo I've ever owned and what did I catch with it? And my favorite combo that I've ever used is definitely going to stick to today's trend, and it's my top water combo. It may not be my most expensive, it may not be the flashiest, but guys, it has caught me some awesome fish. Again, it's my Dobyns Maverick MK735C. I think they're on sale right now on Amazon, so go check them out. They're like $70 right now, normally $120 on Dobyns website. And I have it paired with my Shimano SLX XT 8.2-to-1 reel and 65-pound Power Pro braid. I've caught my two biggest fish of my life on this combo. One of them was on, my second biggest fish was actually on one of the Yozuri spooks. I've got it hanging up, the lure, not the fish, hanging up on my wall. There's a great picture of me with it, and it should be somewhere on my Instagram, so go check that out. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I also got the other one on a huge Chaos Shad, which is from Bass Pro. It's their version of a Chopo or a Whopper Plopper. It's on a big 120mm size. If you guys want to see that fish get caught, go ahead and check out my YouTube. It's called I Broke My PB Again. It's me holding up this humongous fish, and you guys, like an 8-minute video, and the only thing you see in there is you see me walk across this bridge, make two casts, and just catch an absolute football of a fish. So that is my favorite combo, JJ. Again, it's my Dobyns Maverick MK735C. It's a Mag Heavy Extra Fast casting rod in the 7.3 length, and a Shimano SLX XT 8.2-to-1 reel. So nice fast reel, heavy braid. I fish anything top water on it, and that's also I kind of use for my punching rig. I don't punch a ton because, well, we're in Indiana, it's in Lake Okeechobee, so we're not punching a ton, but it is pretty much my top water rig. So, all right, everybody, that is going to be this week's episode